All right, all right. Good morning to each and every one of you on the call. And good morning, Secretary Dr. Wale Okediran. I'm not taking a shot at starting, but I just want to make sure we understand that at all times, if we are not talking, our microphones should be muted, that we would listen to the panelists in the discussion. There will be room for Q&A. You would, if you don't want to come on to ask your question, you could type your question on the chat to me and it will be addressed. Having said that, I would like to welcome the Secretary General of Pan-African Writers Association to give us a word on this very important webinar that we are holding in the person of no other than our own celebrated Dr. Wale Okediran. Dr. Wale Okediran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Prof. And good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to all of us because of the time zones. Today is Africa's Day, as we all know. We are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the formation of the Organization of African Union, which is now called AU. And that's why some of us have decided to wear our Christmas dress in celebration of today. To mark this occasion, Power had decided to discuss a very important topic which has been streaming on the creative world, that is artificial intelligence. We have a very formidable panel of discussants and a world-class moderator. They are going to speak in all the languages we know in Africa. So please be patient. If you don't understand what I'm saying, somebody is going to translate to you in French, Arabic, and then the panelists will also tell us more about these languages. So my own is to thank all of you for coming. Giving your part of this. I want to thank panelists who have also volunteered to be part of this important occasion. And more importantly, to thank our moderator, Professor William Indi. He's a great Pan-Africanist. You can see that, I don't know whether that's a tiger or a lion behind him. I hope I hope he's not alive. It's not live. So Professor Indi is based in the US, Tuskegee University. And apart from moderating this occasion, he has also volunteered the internet arrangement because he wasn't too sure whether Power could handle the expected volume of people coming. So we want to thank him. And it is my hope that at the end of this exercise, we shall be more enlightened about this topic, which has caused a lot of anxiety and trepidation among some people in the creative world. So on this note, I want to thank you. And I will want my colleague here in Power Headquarters, Rain, to quickly translate what I've said to you in French. Rain, you have the floor, please.
Ok, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Je me nomme Reine Fioclou, chargée des programmes à Power. Donc, pour juste réitérer ce que le secrétaire général vient de dire, cette occasion a été organisée pour marquer les 60 ans d'anniversaire de l'Union africaine. Et pour commémorer cette occasion, nous avons décidé d'organiser cette réunion qui a pour thème la littérature africaine et l'intelligence artificielle. Et il voudrait remercier tous les participants remercier tous les participants pour cette réunion et aussi remercier en particulier le professeur Bill Indy pour avoir accepté de modérer cette session. Et il demande à tous, il espère que tout le monde va vraiment en profiter de cette réunion et que cette réunion sera enrichissante pour tous et pour toutes. Je vous remercie. Doug, I think you are muted.
No, you're fine.
All right. So I wanted to say that, Rain, you are supposed to put on your video when you are talking. So you have to repeat what you have said. People want to see, they want to know who is talking. Okay. Unless you have a hand. So please quickly do that. Okay. Thank you.
Ok, bonjour à tous et à toutes. Donc, comme je disais tout à l'heure, pour réitérer les propos du secrétaire général, il a souhaité la bienvenue à tous et à toutes et il espère que cette réunion sera très enrichissante pour tous. Et aussi, cette réunion a été organisée pour commémorer la journée internationale de l'Union africaine qui marque ses 60 ans aujourd'hui. Et il voudrait remercier en particulier le professeur Billy Indy d'avoir accepté de modérer cette session. Et il espère que tout le monde va vraiment en profiter de cette discussion. Merci à tous et à toutes.
Thank you. So, Abbas, we want to hear the Arabic interpretation.
All right. Thank you, Doc. Good morning, everybody. So I'll translate the Doc's remark to you. Okay. صباح الخير للجميع. هذه ترجمة كلمة الدكتور والي. ترحيب. اليوم هو يوم أفريقيا، الذكرى السنوية لتأسيس منظمة الوحدة الأفريقية، الاتحاد الأفريقي ناو. الاتحاد الأفريقي الآن قبل 60 عاماً. للاحتفال بهذه المناسبة الجليلة قررت رابطة الكتاب الأفارقة باوا مناقشة موضوع مهم للغاية في العالم الإبداعي وهو الذكاء الاصطناعي. بالنيابة عن باوا أود أن أشكر المنسق وأعضاء اللجنة وجميع المشاركين الذين قدموا جدول أعمالهم المزدحم للانضمام إلى هذا الحدث. باوا مدينة بشكل خاص للبروفيسور ويليام إندي الذي لم يوافق فقط على تنسيق الحدث ولكن أيضا قدم تسهيلات الإنترنت لاجتماع زوم. آمل في نهاية المناقشة أن نكون جميعا أكثر استنارة بشأن هذه الظاهرة المهمة جدا. وشكرا لكم على الحضور وأتمنى لكم وقتا ممتعا مثمرا في هذا الحدث الجميل. وشكرا.
Abbas, shukran. And Abbas is from Sudan. So on behalf of Power, we are commiserating with you on the situation in Sudan. And we are praying that by God's grace, everything will be settled. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you
so I will hand over to the moderator and then the program will continue. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Secretary Okediran, for that wonderful opening remark. I would like to reiterate that while we are celebrating Africa Day, we should also remember, or I'm sending you good morning, the seat of the creation of Pan-Africanism. I want to get a little bit into this because while we are Pan-Africanists, we should also remember our own history. The first Pan-African meeting that was held in 1899 in London was organized by no other than Booker T. Washington, the founding president of the university where I teach. So I am sending you my good morning from the seat of Pan-Africanism. There is much more we could talk about that. But however, as I said before, trying to do some housekeeping, please remember to keep your audios set. If you have to intervene in talking, turn on your video. It is the least we could demand as courtesy. To the wonderful members of this panel, I want to thank you for accepting to discuss this topic that has given, it is not Africans, it is not just Afro-descendants, it is everybody in the world that is having nightmares about the resurgence of artificial intelligence. People are asking a lot of questions, and I know our powerful panelists here would help shed light to us on some of the fears, hopes, expectations, and what we need to, as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, as far as African literature and the Afro-diasporan literature is concerned. So for starters, we are going to request the panelists to take a minute or two and introduce themselves to the audience. We would need to hear from them. So we are going to start. I'll just follow the order in which they appear in the flyer. So we would start with Mr. Chikumbutso Ndaferankhande. So Mr. Chikumbutso Ndaferankhande, you have the floor. Your audience would like to meet you and know a thing or two about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. and everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Greetings from Southern Africa. As you can see on the flyer, I'm from Malawi, a tiny Southern African country, very peaceful. We pride ourselves as the home heart of Africa. I'm a writer. Currently, I'm the president of the Malawi Writers Union, where we encourage writing and the reading culture. And obviously, I'm part of an affiliate of the Pan-African Writers Association under the wise leadership of Dr. Wale. And I've published several short stories in international anthologies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that brilliant introduction. Let's move on to Dr. Mona. Dr. Mona from Egypt, you have the floor. Looks like Dr. Mona might be having some technical glitch. We would move to Asein while waiting for Dr. Mona to log in. Dr. Asein.
Well, thank you, moderator. And thanks to Dr. Okediran. I don't know, I'm seeing, well, I'm not sharing any screen. So I don't know why this is coming up.
Don't worry.
Don't worry. Okay, very good. Thank you. The name is Dr. Asein, not Asein. And I am the Director General and Chief Executive of the Nigerian Copyright Commission. I spent the greater part of my adult years in the area of intellectual property, and I've done more work in the area of copyright. And by reason of that, I have had some interface with issues to do with artificial intelligence and matters to do with literature and writing. So I'm hoping that this would be an opportunity to focus on the theme of this webinar and also share experiences from other jurisdictions. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Asein. Did I say it right this time? All right, let's move on to Madam Binti Shaba. You are muted. Unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, thank you. Jam Africa, and happy Freedom Day, everybody. My name is Maria Shaba, or Binti Shaba, from the United Republic of Tanzania. I'm a stakeholder and also an activist, proponent of the cultural heritage, African cultural heritage, and literature is part and parcel of it. I'm representing my fellow activists on this subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to Mr. Ayi Renaud Dossavi.
Hello, my name is Ayi Renaud Dossavi. I am a writer from Togo. I published a couple of books, but also a journalist and quite fascinated by, let's say, technology and science. So the issue regarding artificial intelligence and the way it may and probably will disrupt, writing and the writing industry, creative industry interests me very much. And so in that regard, I find it remarkably astute and well put for the power and your association to hold this kind of meeting today. And I'm really sure we are stepping forward to greater the discussion and accomplishment in that regard, because the future will be full with disruptions, and it's great for that. It's great that for once Africans will be ahead of the curve. Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. Let us now know if the Mona Prince is on the line for us. Dr. Mona Prince.
Sorry, Prof. I think Dr. Prince is having some issues. She will join us later on. She's
all right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So we will just follow the same order and proceed. Now that we are gathered here, one of the most interesting things that they would like to know is for the panelists to elucidate on the dangers that AI represents in Africa or for African and African diasporic literature. We have heard rumors. People are panicking everywhere. It is everywhere in the US. People are panicking in Europe, in Asia, Latin America, Africa. We shouldn't be an exception. We are panicking. Can you each turns just limit your answers to about 4 to 5 minutes? You take turns and tell us the danger that AI represent for African literature, African culture, African history, and the rest. So, Mr. Chikumbutso Ndaferankhande.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Prof. Excuse me. As the others have said, first of all, I must say we've been caught off guard as writers. And also, first of all, I'll also talk as an academic, also, apart from writing, I'm a lecturer at a private university right here in Malawi. So with the advent of AI, it has thrown us off balance. Because you talk of, for example, ChatGPT. Before AI, maybe a student has an assignment, a writer has the muse, you have an idea, you want to write a novel, you could take a pen and paper, write on the piece, go in the library, research, take book, for example, take Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, you read, you take Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you take Jack Mapanje, our own professor in Malawi, their poems you read, then yes, you could work hard. But now, even an assignment as a professor, you give your students an assignment, go and research. They could work hard. You take 2-3 days. As you are researching, you are widening your horizon, literally horizon. But nowadays, you give a student an assignment, or you have the muse, you just go on the ChatGPT, say, write an essay on so and so. Within 10 minutes, 5 minutes, in fact, 10 minutes is too much. The things come in. So we are concentrating on the challenges. The main challenge which I'm seeing is that it's fostering laziness. It's a danger to creativity, because people will not research. We will be producing writers that are half-baked. We will be producing students getting degrees in literature and other disciplines who might not have those skills. Yes, of course, it might be a blessing. We will discuss as the discussion goes. But the main challenge I'm seeing is that AI is killing creativity, is fostering laziness, and I think let me stop there for now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for giving us a heads up on what AI is fostering laziness. So let's move on to Dr. Asein.
Thank you very much, moderator.
Yeah.
I will start with what is happening around us. Two things I want to draw attention to. Permit me, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
When you first called my name, I made a correction. There is not Asein.
Yes. You said Asein.
No, it is Asein.
Asein.
This is very instructive.
No, I know. I get it totally. I want to get the right pronunciation.
The right pronunciation is Asein.
Asein.
Good.
Say it right now. Asein.
Yes.
All right.
The reason why I am pointing that out, colleagues, is to draw attention to the human frailty and sometimes what human beings struggle with. Believe me, if we had an intelligent machine and I did that correction once, I may not have to do it again. So sometimes I think we human beings overrate our strength and we think that the machine is coming to threaten our existence rather than accept the reality and find ways of using the machine to improve our lot. So, Mr. Moderator, I just pointed that out to show that artificial intelligence would in fact help humanity to do more in so many areas. Secondly, when we started this webinar, Dr. Kebiron asked that there should be translations in Arabic and in French. And I was waiting for the translation in Swahili. But I realized that would take some time. If we had a good translation machine with artificial intelligence, it would have been possible for us to run this webinar and have all the languages of Africa being represented by the machine. So it means that artificial intelligence is something that we cannot really do without if we are going to be efficient in the world of today. Now, there's the bad news and there's the good news. The good news and bad, both could be bad depending on how you perceive it, that AI will not go away. AI has come to stay. It's for us to now step up.
Oh, wait. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. For some reason, we're not.
Okay. Well, I didn't touch anything, but I hope I'm audible now.
Yes, you are.
I'm saying that the good, bad news is that we cannot wish away artificial intelligence. So we should begin to address how to apprehend it, how to use it, and how to benefit from it. For instance, we know very well that it has been around, it didn't just start today, it's been around since 1950s. The phrase artificial intelligence was first used about 1956. So it is not such a new thing. And we have seen machines getting smarter and smarter. And the world we live in today is a world where machines, artificial intelligence, and humanity must find coexistence. In the new ecosystem, we have to redesign the laws, we have to redesign the way we do our businesses. But my position is that AI is featuring not just in literature, it's featuring in e-commerce, it's featuring in medicine, it's featuring in just name it. So we cannot, at this point, pull back the hand of the clock. The question then is, how do we in Africa use artificial intelligence to better help our literature, to make our literature available in more languages, and to make our works accessible to more people in Africa? I will pause here at the moment and then come back with a follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Asein. I think I got it right this time.
You got it.
Yes. Prof, sorry, Prof. Dr. Mona from Egypt is around now.
Okay. If Dr. Mona is here with us, before I give her the floor, I just want to plead with everybody again in attendance, mute yourselves, because you realize while we have the panelists talking, you'd see an empty screen comes up because somebody unmuted themselves and they were talking. It is not very good. Let us listen to the speakers. So Dr. Mona, welcome, good morning. Take a few minutes, tell us about yourself, and then take another few minutes and address how AI represents a danger for African literature or African diasporic literature. You can take in total about 5 minutes. We'll be fine with that. You have the floor, Dr. Mona. Unmute yourself. Dr. Mona, can you hear me? Doesn't seem like we're getting. All right.
I think we can go on.
All right, let's continue with Madame Shaba. Madame Binti Shaba. Unmute yourself, ma'am.
Like that?
Thank you. Now we can hear you. We didn't hear anything before.
Okay, I said I'm from a Kiswahili speaking country. And in the region, we have about 40% of the audience who can understand Kiswahili. And I don't want them to miss anything from what I say. So I will talk in Kiswahili and then summarize in English. Is that okay?
That is fine. You could either talk in English, summarize in Swahili, or talk in Swahili, summarize in English. We're fine with that. And for all the other speakers of other languages, you can talk to us in English and summarize in your native language or vice versa. So let's hear you, Madam Shaba.
Okay, I'll start with Kiswahili. Wapendwa, ili mada ya leo kidogo huwa hatuizungumzi sana hii artificial intelligence. Kiswahili chake si itakuwa vipi, lakini ni akili ya bandia, si akili ya asili. Nasema hivyo kwa sababu kubwa kwamba hii akili ya kuazima ni akili ya kuazima, inakuwa haina ladha, inakuwa kavukavu, haina hisia ndani yake, kwa sababu huyo aliyeitengeneza bila shaka na yeye hakumwezesha huyo ambaye huyu artificial intelligence kwamba aweze kujiongeza. Kwa hiyo kile atakachokisema yeye ndio hicho. Kwa hiyo inakuwa kavukavu, haina ladha, na hasa tukizingatia kwenye haya masuala ya fasihi. Kwa hiyo unakuta hii lugha hii ya kisasa ya kidijitali ni tegemezi sana, kwa sababu haiwezi kujiongeza. Kwa hivyo hata ukifanya tafsiri itakuwa kavu. Pengine mwenyewe aliyoiandika alikuwa na hisia zake, lakini haziwezi kujitokeza pale, kwa sababu huyo kesha tengenezwa kwamba aseme hicho anachosema au aandike hicho anachoandika. Alafu pia kwa maana hiyo inakuwa na ukomo. Nikisema ukomo, nina maana kwamba hawezi kuongeza kitu kingine chochote baada ya kuandika alichoandika. Kwa hivyo kama alipotosha baadhi ya mambo, na tumeona kwenye tafsiri nyingi, kwa mfano historia yetu ya Kiafrika mara nyingi imepotoshwa, kwa sababu muktadha wake wa yule aliyeandika na maana hatumjui pia ni nani. Kwa hiyo muktadha ulioandikwa mle unakuwa tofauti kabisa labda na mawazo yetu, historia yetu na vitu kama hivyo. Alafu kingine kinachofanya hii lugha ya kuazima hii iwe na mkorogo, yani ni kama mkorogo, kwa sababu kila mtu anaweza akatafsiri anavyotaka yeye mwenyewe. Hakuna mwenye mamlaka ya kumuuliza au kumsahihisha, lakini ikitoka ndio imetoka. Alafu swala kubwa sasa linalokuja hasa kwa kwenye fasihi ni swala la umiliki wa machapisho. Je, ni nani hasa ambaye anapata hizo fedha? Kwa mfano, nani anayelipwa? Kwa hiyo ni swala ambalo bado, pamoja na kwamba tunajua wakati ni ukuta, lakini kuna mambo ambayo inabidi tuyaangalie hata inapokuja kwenye fasihi, ili tusije tukapoteza maana na tukapoteza ladha, tukapoteza ubunifu wa kutegemea tu kwamba kila kitu kwenye kompyuta kiko sahihi. And now in summary, I'm trying to say artificial intelligence for us is not real intelligence. One, because it's like borrowed intelligence. Somebody has decided to prepare a program, but it has no taste. It's so dry, because in literature, normally there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of under, I don't know how to say it, but there's a lot which you cannot write or you cannot translate using this artificial intelligence. Again, it's also dependent on the one who made it. It's man-made. It's not really original. Somebody else has tried to translate it in any language he can, but not through the original writer or composer. So it's like it's dependent on somebody else, and therefore there's a lot of chance that a lot can be distorted as well. And the artificial intelligence cannot go out of the box. What is written and nothing else. And then we're saying it's limited, because once translated, you can't undo it. And there are so many people who will do it in their own way. So you get so many translations, so many theories about the same thing. And this confuses people, and sometimes it can even cause discourse in the community, because we don't use that term, and the artificial intelligence cannot choose maybe the right word, and it can choose a wrong word, which is offensive maybe to that particular language. So what I'm trying to say is intelligence, artificial intelligence, it comes to literature, we have a long way to go, because it's not reality, it's not live, it's not emotional, it's not creative, and this can affect a lot of creativeness within the African literature. Maybe I can stop there for now.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Shaba. Dr. Mona, before we go to Mr. Dossavi, Dr. Mona, have you resolved your problem with the microphone? Can you speak out to our hearing? If you can, we'll give you the floor to introduce yourself and then tell us about the dangers that AI represent to our literature. Dr. Mona, can you hear us? I just want a sign that you hearing us. All right, Mr. Dossavi, you have the floor. Elucidate on the dangers that AI represent for African and African diasporic literatures. You have about 4 minutes.
Well, thank you for your time. What I would say at first is that the very specific nature of artificial intelligence and that makes it so disruptive is that its capacity to learn and to accelerate in learning. One an AI tool can really accelerate to an exponential speed the way it's incrementing its progresses. If you take a tool like ChatGPT, what you see is that in roughly 5 years, the speed of evolution is really outstanding. And now we are a system that can simulate competence, and that's a really key part. In a context where writing was already kind of, let's say, contorted with the time and energy that you put, and that people are more and more distracted. So writing is already kind of in danger with the work to attention. When I have a tool like ChatGPT, and that more and more people can simulate competence, like not just have it, not really have it, but pretend that they have it, and it creates a pressure for writers and people that do create. It is true that a tool is how could you put it, devoid of soul, but that's a tricky question, because what is a soul really? And when you know that the system have been trained with the data of humanity stolen, and that's actually pose a really issue if you think about it. When you know that, it is not impossible, in my opinion, that we have a system which will, in few months or years at worst, simulates more and more closely. We reach an asymptote, as we call it in mathematics, like simulate more and more humanity. And it will be more and more difficult for writers, or even for common people, to extract themselves and to stand out in a way. Having said that, we also have to say that the tool will be extremely useful for good writers. One thing that AI will probably do is that it will accelerate the divide between the very best and the rest of other people. The thing is that AI can really help you as a single writer to, deal with menial work and focus more on creative work. But most people that are, let's say, mediocre capacity or medium or mediocre capacity will probably be left in the dust, and that's a real issue. We would probably have at some point not only to redefine the meaning of creative work for not only for writers but for most creative workers and knowledge workers. The crisis, while not being just about writers, just about knowledge work in general, will probably affect writers even more. We are actually seeing it. There will at some point be a question that will be asked: what makes a human so particular? So if a writer want to stand out in this condition, he will have to be, like I said before, extraordinary. Like dive the way deeper into the depth of human soul in a way, so that his writing can stand out. But if you are just, let's say, okay, standards, you'll probably be left behind, and that's a great issue. Outside of that, we can also imagine, to be, let's say, optimistic, that humanity will have to redefine a system of value around what it is to be creative in the epoch where an AI can create 10 times or 100 times faster than you. That would be a real issue. It's very difficult to actually understand how things will go. It is true that the bad scenarios are much more, have a much stronger case than the good scenarios. But it's really difficult to settle the debate now. All I can say is that we will have to be careful, learn to use it, and not be left behind the curve, and see how it goes. I don't want to throw too much numbers, but all I can say is that as creative people, we have to understand that it is not impossible. And I really want to emphasize that it is not impossible, that we are from the race of the last writers, maybe. But that would be too much, let's say, pessimistic. But I'm quite pessimistic with it. I think I am pessimistic in the short term. I imagine that in the long term, we will find a new modus operandi, a new system of value to redefine what it is to be creative in the age of AI. So a lot of challenges, but it is good to be attentive and adapt very quickly, so that we do not be left behind by the changes, that the massive disruptions that AI is, not only in Africa, but in the diaspora in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, Prof.
Yes.
Can he speak French? Is a French-speaking person.
Yeah, we will very much welcome that. Vous parlez un petit peu en français, résumé.
Oui, donc pour le retirer un peu généralement, je pense qu'il y a 3 points essentiels qu'il faudrait aborder et comprendre avec l'intelligence artificielle. C'est que, elle va creuser les écarts entre les auteurs moyens et les auteurs exceptionnels. C'est-à-dire qu'on aura le top 2%, voire peut-être le top 10% des auteurs les plus productifs, qui vont souvent profiter des avantages comparatifs qu'offre l'intelligence artificielle, notamment dans la gestion des tâches courantes. Donc, on peut se consacrer au travail créatif, d'une part. D'autre part, on aura le fait que l'IA risque d'évaluer encore plus le travail de l'écriture en général. Parce que, comme de plus en plus de gens peuvent accéder à un outil qui simule, j'insiste sur le terme simule les compétences et l'intelligence, on aura de plus en plus de mal à distinguer les bons créatifs, si on veut, des mauvais créatifs dans ce contexte-là. Et ce faisant, tous ceux qui sont moyens, comme je le disais, plutôt seront un peu noyés dans la masse des médiocres. Enfin, il n'est pas impossible, je pèse mes mots, qu'on soit face à des scénarios catastrophes très lourds. Je pense que quand on regarde l'évolution de l'intelligence artificielle et la courbe sur laquelle on est, il n'est pas absurde d'imaginer des scénarios très très sombres, non seulement pour les travaux créatifs qui sont les plus exposés, mais pour l'ensemble du système économique. Mais en même temps, on peut rester optimiste à l'idée que la crise du sens, la crise de la créativité que l'IA amène, la crise massive, nous pousse l'humanité en général à redéfinir nos systèmes de valeurs, notre architecture, on va dire, axiologique de valeurs et de valorisation de ce que c'est que le travail créatif. Donc, à redéfinir comment on valorise le travail créatif de l'humain à l'époque de l'intelligence artificielle. Ayant soulevé ces 3 points, ce que je peux dire fondamentalement, c'est qu'il faudra quand même être extrêmement attentif à ces évolutions. Il faudra maîtriser ces outils pour ne pas être dépassé par l'innovation et de sorte à pouvoir s'adapter rapidement aux transformations que cela implique. Donc, curiosité, adaptation et beaucoup de formation de la part des auteurs pour qu'on puisse être, comment dire en anglais, ahead of the curve. En français, le terme m'échappe un peu, pour nous adapter. Merci.
OK, merci beaucoup pour cette brillante intervention. On passerait tout de suite. Dr. Mona, we're still eager to hear from you. Everybody wants to hear from you. So maybe if you're having problems, could you just type your responses to the chat and I will read it out to the public. Can Dr. Mona hear me? All right. If not, let's continue. The party continues. Okay. Now we've listened to you tell us some of the dangers that is provoking the fears that we all have about artificial intelligence. And the next question we would really like to hear from you is, how can we stave these dangers and challenges presented by AI? Is there a way that we can, avoid the danger elucidated on? So let's continue. Mr. Chikumbutso Ndaferankhande.
Thank you, Prof. If I understood your question correctly, you are saying, is there a way we can either avert or minimize the dangers posed by AI?
Yes.
Yeah. My humble contribution, first of all, let me make a caveat or like a disclaimer to say, allow me, Prof, and the others to be a bit controversial. I would say, like what this one, Ayi Dossavi from Togo, I like his point to say, now, one danger of AI, and my friend from Tanzania, that lady, she said AI has no so issues of context, and now let's talk about literature. Literature is like an intersection of various disciplines. It's not a standalone discipline. It's fed by our history, by our culture. Now, as long as the algorithms, as long as the AI is managed by the West, I believe African literature will be disadvantaged because they don't have our context. It's like our history has been distorted. Our culture has been demonized. I already said, forgive me, I might be a bit controversial, but look at when we are civilized, our culture was demonized. Our major religions are from the East. So we as Africans, it's beyond we as literature gurus. Our government, our universities has to step up and own up AI, just as Professor John Asein said. Yeah. By the way, I'm excited to meet Professor John. 11 years later, he taught me copyright in Mutare in Zimbabwe. So we have to own up our universities, our IT gurus. We have to feed this AI. We have to feed it with history. If we just import AI from Elon Musk, from the IT specialist from the West, Africa will still be, our literature will still be distorted because AI is fed. It's fed by somebody, originates the information. So one danger to avert these dangers, I believe we Africa, we have to step up. Like this movie Wakanda. Of course, I've not watched the second part, but the first one, it was like it glorified Africa to say we can have our own technologies, our intelligentsia. We don't have to import. Let's originate. So, in short, let's own it up our things. Let's invent something as Africans to say this is our vision. Because if we just originate and take it hook, line, and sinker, the information the machines will be feeding us will be biased because the machine is not, I believe, it's not neutral. It will take the intelligence of the creator. So in short, sir, we Africans, it's beyond us as literally intelligentsia. Our universities, our governments, they have to fund IT programs, invention, so that we originate our own AI, I believe it, so that the information the machines will be feeding us will be unbiased. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Professor Asein, you have the floor to tell us, being a specialist in copyright, tell us what we could do. And after this round of questionings, I would read some of the information that's on the chat, because some people are on their phone, they cannot have access to what people are communicating on the chat. So Professor Asein.
Thank you very much. I must say that sometimes one has to appreciate where we are. We are in a transition. And I know how scary it was when the millennium bug came at the turn of the millennium, and we thought the whole world was going to crash, but nothing really happened. Now, here we are talking about AI, and I see a tendency, because the generation that is discussing AI today are those who are not really digital. Many of us were not born digital. Many of us are hardly able to relate with the digital environment. So I can understand our fears, including my own fears, because I'm not able to believe that AI can be trusted. But like I said earlier, there are people that will benefit from AI. Take, for instance, a blind person is being assisted more and more by artificial intelligence. A blind person now can take a book and literally read the book without having to use Braille. Now, a blind person can put on some special goggles and he's able to recognize objects around him because of artificial intelligence. Even in our own writings, many of us use artificial intelligence at different levels. For instance, when you write today, you trust the spell check, you trust your grammar check so much that sometimes even the professor will stand to be corrected because the software says this grammar is wrong. Yeah. So these are different levels of artificial intelligence. And I think that for the African writer, maybe not for our own generation, but for the African writer, the first to come out of denial and accept that artificial intelligence is here. Whether we use it or not, it will be growing. Some books are on Amazon today that were generated by artificial intelligence. They may not be as smart as books written by humans or books written entirely by humans, but with time they will get better. So I think for Africans, we must upscale our knowledge. We must build our skills around being able to use those tools. Now, there will be tools. There won't be replacement for the human. So I can understand when we talk of literature not having a soul because it's coming from artificial intelligence. That is true, very true. But I can imagine when the computer came, when typewriting came, people thought that wasn't the way to write, that you had to write with beautiful cursive writing, that was the beauty of literature. So over time, we have seen these changes come. So we must begin to find ways to make our laws, for instance, to enable us have access to some of these materials that will help us to catch up with the rest of the world. For instance, if we want to use artificial intelligence to translate a book to Kiswahili, for instance, you may need to train that particular artificial intelligence. And in training, you will use other materials. So which means you must be given access to be able to use those materials for the deep learning that is required to help the machines. So we must ensure that our regulatory and legal environment will not become clogs in the growth and development of our own efforts to use AI to better our lot. Now, I did mention the fact that we want a unified and more integrated Africa. Africa has God knows how many languages. How are we able to get to those languages if we don't train AI to be able to recognize those African languages? And I'm happy that a lot of Africans are beginning to develop their own AI in ways that they can use them for their local languages and dialects. So that should be encouraged. So whoever is going to oversee this, I don't know, but we must encourage Africans to be in the forefront of these developments. Incidentally, AI is largely built on open software. So which means if you are able to go out there and you know what it takes, you could use the open software that is available to better the lot of literature in Africa, to better the lot of literature in the different languages. Lastly, I want to mention that because it's a tool, those of us who are already in the, we've crossed the halfway line and we're not digitally inclined. I believe that AI will be able to provide some assistance that will enable us use what is coming out today. So we shouldn't be in fear. We shouldn't be in denial. Rather, we should embrace, we should upskill, and we should find ways of growing our local capacity to be able to adapt the AIs that are available for the use of Africans and the benefit of Africa. Those are my thoughts, Mr. Moderator. I'll come back later to talk about the copyright issues because there are a lot of them around authorship, around ownership of those things created by AI. Thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. And we would listen to Ms. Shaba and Mr. Dossavi and Dr. Asein. Hold that thought, that last thought you just mentioned, because our next question will be dealing with those issues. So, Madam Shaba, unmute.
Okay, unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, after listening to what others have been saying, I have this feeling that in this globalized world, we as Africans, we need to ask ourselves, do we have an African culture today that we can call our own? For me, African culture should be able to operate and advance our interests. Now, in this globalized world, where there is a lot of ideology in it, because all languages have ideology, can we say this is advancing our interests? I know everybody can answer the way they want, but somebody also said, what do we have to do in order to face those challenges? For me, I would say, if we don't want to stay behind and be oppressed by the artificial intelligence, one of the things we have to do, we have to translate these literatures ourselves. Because there's an African saying which says, if the lioness does not write her story, the hunter will. And this is what is happening. We don't sacrifice our time, our intellect, our skills, our knowledge to translate in our own languages, which will carry our culture, our ideology, so that other people can also learn that we are not, the world is so diverse, not about just one country or one language dominating others. And Africans also have their own way of saying things, of doing things that are of interest and benefit to them.
Hey,
That's
check out this new shirt I just got made. Biggie Smalls. Pretty sick shirt, right?
somebody is interfering. I didn't hear.
That's okay. You
So
go.
in Kiswahili, I'm trying to say, ndugu zangu, katika zama hizi za utandawazi, mambo mengi yanabadilika. Je, sisi kama Waafrika tunaweza tukasema tuna utamaduni wa Kiafrika? Je, ni upi huo utamaduni wetu? Je, upo na unaendeleza maslahi? Hilo ni swali kubwa ambalo inabidi tulijibu. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
Somebody is trying to interfere.
Yeah. So nawaambia Waswahili kwamba hili swala la lugha tusichukulie tu kirahisi rahisi, kwa sababu linabeba vitu vingi ndani yake. Kwa hiyo kuna msemo wa Kiafrika kwamba mama simba asipoandika historia yake, basi mwindaji ataandika historia yake, na ndio kinachotokea sasa hivi. Sisi wenyewe hatuchukui muda, hatujitoi kwamba tutafsiri vitu vyetu sisi wenyewe kwa namna yetu. Kwa hiyo wale ambao wapo na wanataka kujua mambo yetu watatafsiri kwa niaba yetu, alafu tunalalamika. Lakini pia nakubaliana na mtaalamu huyo aliyesema kwamba inabidi, sio dhambi kutumia kitu ambacho mtu mwingine amegundua, lakini na sisi tunaweza tukajiongeza, kwa sababu tunao vijana wetu wengi sasa hivi ambao ni mahodari sana kwenye masuala haya ya dijitali sasa hivi. Kwa hiyo kama tutaweza kuwa na uzalendo wetu wenyewe kama Waafrika, tukafanya kazi hizo wenyewe, pengine hao wengine nao sasa wataanza kuheshimu, kwa sababu watajua kwamba na sisi tunajua. Lakini kama hatutafanya kazi hiyo wenyewe kwa kujitoa, kwa kweli tutakuwa tunajisumbua. Kwa Kiingereza wanasema no pain no gain. Kwa hiyo usipojitesa na kujitoa wewe mwenyewe, basi utafanikiwa hata siku moja.
All right. Thank you very much. I think in spite of the interruptions, we are doing very well. And one of our panelists had a constraint and had to leave. At this time, really, I would plead to know if Dr. Mona is available to tell us something. Yeah, Dr. Mona. All right. If not, let's continue with the panelists who can hear us. So the next question I'm going to have for you is to tell us, you've already touched on it, how AI represents danger, how it could be of help. And we now understand that AI is here to stay. So what are the ethical actions that you would suggest for us African writers to peacefully coexist, okay? And not giving to AI, but making the best of AI. I just read on the chat, and I'm sure the chat will be made available. as proceedings for this webinar. I can't read everything. One of the audience member points out that African writers should learn to make use of AI rather than have AI make use of them. So can you panelists help give us some ethical directions that we can allow AI to peacefully coexist with us? So let's start with Mr. Chikumbutso Ndaferankhande.
Okay, thank you. I think this is maybe the most sticky issue because my fellow university dons will agree that the academia is afraid to say, then how do we trust the students' originality? The same applies to writing, to say how do we handle issues of originality. I know it's good we have an expert here, Dr. Asein, will enlighten us, but yes, ethical issues are a sticky issue. Now, yes, it's a new thing. We are still learning AI. Yes, it's been there before. I know we've been using, like here, what we are doing, it's part of advanced technology. But the advanced level we have achieved now, we are still learning it. And I know by and by will get used. But for now, my true Tambala opinion, Tambala is my local currency here. My true Tambala opinion would be to say that's the main challenge and the main fear which AI has brought is that issue of ethics, because issues of citation, they might not come in handy. So on that one, I'll push it to our colleague, Dr. Asein. But indeed, that's a very worrisome trend. Like, as I've said, I lecture at my local university here. When students discovered it, the lecture room was worried to say, now, how do we handle it now? The same with writing, how do we handle creativity? So, Prof, like I've said, there we might need the guidance as the publishers, as the people who guide writers, because I believe, like most of us here, we are either head of writers associations or we hold the positions of decision making to determine writing what to publish and what not to publish. And that's something we are grappling with. People have been thrown off feet. And before Dr. John takes in, I don't know how, after these discussions, will there be like sort of a publication? I don't know. Proceeding from here, the knowledge which is being generated, because we need to, people have to make reference, because we have to originate there has to be discussions, discourse. People have to quote, writing dissertations. It's like you've just triggered something of discussion, and I have to credit Dr. Wale for bringing this topic. It's very topical, very relevant. So going forward, Prof, will you make available the rich ideas from even those who are participating through messages, what they are coming, what they are from there? I thought we needed to preserve this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very, very much. So let's move on to Dr. Eng. Sorry. Mr. Broadbay, can you please mute yourself? Stephen Brobe, can you please mute yourself? Just give me a second. I have to find a way to kick him off. Thank you very much. I just had to kick him off so we can continue. That's technology for us. That's what we are disputing here. So, Dr. Asein, could you please give us some pointers, address the question that we've asked?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I think Chikumbutso was just being kind, you know. He has answers to most, if not all, the questions raised. And he's more than qualified to propound more. But just since he has thrown the challenge at me, let me just add my own 2 kobo suggestions. The kobo is the currency, is the smallest currency in Nigeria, like he did for Malawi. Now, on a serious note, I think at some point we may have to set more ground rules for how AI is to be used. For instance, he talked about the challenge academics are facing now and what students are doing. And the question is, how are you able to detect all that? I believe that with time, there will be some technology that will help us to easily identify where a material is coming from, even if it's from ChatGPT or if it's some other AI platform. Time was when people could go online and take materials and use them without detection. But now we know that there are a lot of plagiarism detection software. So in some way, one of the best ways of checking the excesses of technology or the abuse of technology is to build some of that technology around it. And I think there are already some software out there that are like an AI police, and they're able to also detect sources or track the sources of materials, and in some cases raise the red flag where there is a perceived case of plagiarism. But I know that in the interim, there will certainly be a lot of issues. And it might be that we may have to change some of the rules by which we operate at the moment. Whether we are at this point ready to change those rules is not yet clear. But so far, we are forced to use the rules as they are against against what we see AI bringing out. For instance, I think most of the countries in Africa are united in the position of their copyright law that expects some level of human creativity for a work to enjoy copyright. So although people may use AI, many of the works created by AI at this point might not qualify. If it is entirely by AI, they would not qualify for copyright enjoyment. But where the AI has been used as a tool, or there is some human intervention in creating a work using AI, then that work certainly will qualify for copyright protection. Now, the question whether AI on its own can create and enjoy copyright at this moment is purely an academic question, because I don't see any country that has gone that far. But it might be that in the near future, those who are responsible for the underlying software may be able to make claims. But one illustration of how we humans will have to define the boundaries and set ethical standards is what happened recently. I think that's about just a few weeks ago, when the Writers Guild of America went on strike. And one of the things they raised as their concerns was the involvement or the use of AI, to do the work they had been doing traditionally. And I think at the end of the day, there were negotiations, and they reached a midpoint as to how the studios, the TV stations will use AI. In other words, they were not ready to see AI take over all they were doing. And that, I think, is an indication of how at different levels in different sectors, we may have to negotiate the boundaries. So for instance, it could be that in a university setting, you give students the do's and don'ts, what kind of AI they can use and the extent to which they can use them. And there are ways of checking where they go in breach of this. Now, secondly, like I said earlier, there will be areas where the copyright law, for instance, will come in conflict with our own needs. A good example is where you have minority languages that need to be, to be sustained. And I believe that one of the advantages of AI is that it could actually help us to retain or to keep some languages alive. It will help us to quickly develop the translations for some of these languages in a way that they can be sustained long after the major holders are gone. We know very well that one of the problems in Africa is the volatile nature of our knowledge systems, the volatile nature of our languages, and most of them are disappearing because there's nowhere to keep them or track them or find ways of maintaining them. And I think we can use AI constructively to achieve that. So talking about those ethical standards, I think there will be discussions around that. Those in literature will have to have their own discussion and agree on what is acceptable. For instance, one of the books that was developed using AI, was authored using entirely AI, almost made the list, in a particular award or prize. So if tomorrow a literature comes up and is able to scale through and it misses the scrutiny of the panelists, you will probably find an AI literature that will make it to the list. Many people today will say that no, AI can never write a good novel, but we have seen AI that is writing good poems. And I'm a believer in science, and I believe that down the road, AI will get better and they will compete with humans. But the moment humans grow to be able to use those AIs, we will be able to control and we'll be able to have dominion over the AI and use them the way we want. But in doing that and going forward, we should begin to have this conversation around how to set the ethical standards, how to set the boundaries. A good example of how intrusive and disruptive AI can be is the interruptions we had with those videos coming. That could have been a hacker trying to, be part of this conversation. So you have good AI, you also have bad AI. There will always be the good and the bad. And that is where other regulatory and frameworks will have to be used so that we can punish those who use the bad AI to spin fake news or to spin disruptive news, and at the same time encourage those who will use it for the good of humanity. Mr. Moderator, I hope I've not overshot my time. Thank you.
No, you did well. Thank you very, very much. So, Madam Shaba, we would want to hear from you. I have my eyes on the clock. I would like to be able to give time for our audience to ask questions or to make observations. So, Madam Shaba, just tell us in about 3 to 4 minutes what we can do, and if possible, I don't know if Dr. Mona will be here to give us a word, because we'd like to hear at least a word from her if she's on the call.
Her hand is on.
Yes.
Her hand is up.
Okay. If her hand is up, maybe we give her that minute before we hear from Madame Shaba. Dr. Mona? All right. Madame Shaba, you have the floor. No problem. When she comes back, I'll give.
This is a world of, we have a war of wits. And I'm just wondering, for those experts in this industry of intelligence, artificial intelligence, how they are prepared. What I mean is, a gun does not kill, but people kill. Now imagine you give a gun to a mad person, there will be havoc. So this AI is a technological tool. Now, those who handle it, how prepared are they? Because if there are some of them, like we have seen in so many cases, some of them have no ethics, some of them have no knowledge, but still they push whatever they want to push because nobody can control them. So maybe when we are preparing these IT experts, especially in this area, maybe they should have basic knowledge. Especially, I'm talking about Africans. I don't know about other races, but we as Africans, because we are consumers of those products. So if we can have our own experts who are well prepared, mentally, technologically, culturally, in every way, so that we can start doing it ourselves. Otherwise, we shall keep on agonizing, whining without end. That's my last sentence.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Dr. Mona, your hand is up. You have the floor. We need to hear from you. Dr. Mona, see your microphone is on, your video is on. Tell us something.
Hello?
Yes, Dr. Mona, we can hear you. You have the floor.
No, my name is Kathleen Adodo.
Okay.
Not Dr. Muna, my name is Kathleen Adodo.
All right, you had your hand up.
Yes, from Togo.
We give you the floor.
Okay, yes. Can I speak? Okay. So I would like to join Dr. Asein in saying that we all know that artificial intelligence is here to stay. We must now find the ways to use it at our own advantages. Some printing house, I read recently that some printing house have developed tools to detect machine-produced text, because there are certain automatism that they can detect. So there are tools that they are already developing to be able to detect machine-produced text. I would like to speak to writers and poets in particular, because this is my field, poetry. I think we are being caught in the game of surrealism. Some poets love to write things that nobody can understand, just putting words, playing with words, playing with sentences that the machines can do. But we know that machines don't have feelings. they don't know, they don't have a knowledge of the world, they don't know our environment. So I think that where we can beat the machine is in the area of realism. So the game of surrealism, that's where the machine can beat us. But we can bring it, as writers, we are now obliged to perform and to excel in our what makes a human different from a machine. That's the realism, that's our feelings. That's so that maybe that's in this field that we can beat the machine. So that's what I want to say. And then I also acknowledge the importance of this meeting, because Africa cannot always stay behind and follow suit. We must also have our say in the way things are going, in the way of artificial intelligence is used in the writing industry. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that very powerful introduction of comments from our viewers. So if you have a question that was not touched upon that you would like us to address, I think the last 20 or so minutes of our time, we could take those questions, address your questions to the panelists, raise your hands. If I see a raised hands, I'll call you by your name and give you the floor. Any questions from our audience? Well, if there are no questions from the audience, are we sure? I know in the chat there are some questions that are posted. I have one from that's Wawin Jila Talimbo Books. The question is Africa ready for AI with enough data to be used as sources? That's the first question. So I would leave that to any of the panelists to address that question, if Africa is ready for AI with enough data to be used as resources. Who would like to take the shot?
Okay, Prof, maybe
Yes.
Let me take it up, and maybe someone might chip in. If I had the question right, the panelist is asking, is Africa ready for AI, isn't it?
Yeah, with enough data to be used as resources. Meaning, do we have enough resources, whether enough data to be used?
Thank you. Obviously, I might not have the exact stats, but we are not yet ready, because you are looking at infrastructure, our power supply, our economy, even our politics. Like I've said, yes, we are in AI, we are in advanced technology, but still more, we are still grappling with the issues of being famished, poverty levels. So just as one of the panelists, Professor Asein, said, we are still, it's a new thing and we will cope. But maybe in the next years, of course, it depends on various countries. I'm not giving a blanket opinion. You're looking maybe South Africa, Nigeria, the Sahel region, the Arabic world might be better, but generally the Sub-Saharan Africa, we might not be ready infrastructure-wise. So we need all sectors to join hands, political, the private sector, investment, starting with our universities. We need to encourage innovation and research in our universities, engineering, ICT, give scholarships so that we develop the machinery. Yes, we have the talent, but so roughly I would say we need maybe in some countries half a century, 50 years, in some countries 10 years. So the majority, even if you talk of South Africa, Nigeria, more than half of the population, they are still poor. So in short, we are still not yet ready. Some countries, yes, they are better off, but generally, we are not yet ready. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody wants to take a shot at that question or to add or take away from what Mr. Chikumbutso just said?
Sorry, Mr. Moderator, I lost my connection. I didn't get the question. I'm so sorry.
All right. It was a question coming from Talimbo Books, asking if Africa is ready for AI with enough data to be used as resources.
Well, I think no country, no region is 100% ready. So we shouldn't put down Africa for whatever reason. We can catch up with what is going on. So to that extent, I think Africa is ready, so long as we have the right legal framework and we are able to have the appropriate support from governments and other agencies that need to support people to use AI in a more beneficial manner. I don't like this idea of saying that Africa is not ready for something. I mean, we are as ready as any other beings. We have good minds that can help us navigate through AI.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Shaba.
Yeah, I was just thinking, maybe I'm not the digital age, but I'm just thinking, with this AI, aren't we going to create robots? Because we have seen, especially in literature, creativity, disappears. Because if you depend on a tool to help you do something and not yourself, then your brain will not be working. There will be little creativeness. And when we look at our young people these days, they are the digital guys, then they won't be bothered to do a lot of work. Like somebody said, when they at the college, you give them some assignment, they just go and they do it, but they don't think. So for me, in that sense, we're not ready. We have to have people and not robots. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I feel.
All right. Thank you.
In Kiswahili, mwezeshaji wetu alikuwa anasema, kuna mtu ameuliza, je, sisi kama Waafrika tuko tayari kuwa na teknolojia ya akili ya kuazima tunayo sasa hivi, yani kuna hitaji sasa hivi. Kwa hiyo amejibu ndio, ni kiasi cha kujitayarisha na kuwa na miundombinu na serikali kuwezesha. Na kwa upande mwingine, mimi nilikuwa nasema kwamba pengine ni mapema mno, kwa sababu akili ya kuazima inakufanya wewe usifikiri wewe mwenyewe. Kwa hiyo tunaweza kuwa na taifa la maroboti tu, kwa sababu kila mtu anabonyeza hivi inajipa. Kwa nini nifanye kazi? Kwa nini nifikiri? Kwa nini nitete? Kwa hiyo nikasema kwamba pengine bado wakati wetu tuendelee polepole, lakini kwa sasa hivi tuwekeze kwenye akili zetu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Mr. Ishola Williams has the hand raised. So
yes,
we
can you
would
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we
Thank
need
you.
to see. We need to see you too.
I hope you can see me. Now, I just want to say that, first of all, I tend to agree with Mr. Ndaferankhande from Malawi. Rather than my compatriot, Dr. Asein, we are playing with a phenomenon that even the people who are creating them do not even understand very well. And they are scared that it will get to a stage in which it will be a story like Dr. No. They cannot control it anymore. They are scared. And if people like Bill Gates and co are talking about the future of AI the way they are talking about it, then we have a big problem on our hand. What Africa needs to do is to leapfrog from software development to developing algorithms, okay, which is to a certain level higher than just developing software, which many Africans are able to do now. But in the area of algorithms, that is where we need to leapfrog into. For us to be able to sit on the same table with the experts in artificial intelligence. The second thing is that we are not getting involved in the research and development of the materials that are necessary for development of further AI. We are followers. Even for software, we follow. For AI, we are following. And we are not getting a good grasp of it. Now, coming to the case of literature, I'm not a poet, a writer or anything. If university professors are scared and they've come up with algorithms to be able to, like United States, they know when you copy from ChatGPT or anything to write your thesis. And many theses have been discovered to have been written by students from ChatGPT. Okay, they have ways to detect that. In the case in Africa, and Dr. Asein is in charge of copyright, how do you determine whether a whole novel was written by somebody or it was written by a machine? And who gets the copyright, the human being or the machine? Okay. Therefore, to me, we have to do some leapfrogging in order to be able to play an important role. And if it's going to get involved in our creativity, then it involves with what somebody has said. You need a lot of data, like machine languages. So how do Africa start feeding into the AI, the LLMs that are needed to be able to keep our creativity and our culture into what's happening all over the world right now? We are not even discussing that at all. We are not discussing that at all. And nobody's even talking about the ethics of AI, which had been discussed in the United States, okay? And which even the man who started the whole issue about ChatGPT and co is telling the US Congress, you have to come up with some rules and regulations, okay? And the Africans haven't started talking about that. And above all, sir, people have also accepted that AI can be used for criminal activities. How do you check that? So we need to do something frogging. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
No, thank you very, very much. You've had your say. I think there would be a few other people who would want to say something. Do we have any other question from the audience? If we don't have any other question from the audience, I would like our panelists to take just 2 minutes each and give us their concluding remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. and everyone. I would say and urge my friends, fellow Africans to say, maybe let's not, at the end of everything, despite our fears, despite looking at this new demon among us, to quote Elon Musk, he called AI a new demon we have to live with. We have to embrace it. Well, let's appreciate this, that it's here to stay. And let's work around it. However, I still repeat what I earlier said to say, let's up our game. It's a multi-sectoral approach. It's political, it's economic, not just government, but even private sector. Let's finance our universities. Let's establish new faculties. The engineering department, let it innovate, let it finance the ICT sector. Let's develop our own ICT. And as Professor John said, it's even an open source. So let our ICT people be fed with our locally bred knowledge. Because as I've said, if our literature, if we give over our responsibility to the West and the East, our literature will still be context will be distorted, and the tales which will be there will always glorify the hunter and not the hunted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So can we listen to Dr. Asein? We might have lost Dr. Asein. And I see Dr. Justus posted a question.
Asein is there.
Okay. Okay.
Asein is there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I will. Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. In closing, first, I must thank Power for this, for even starting this conversation. And in my closing remarks, I would say that I agree with the comments that have been made on the need for Africa to leapfrog. This area, but because of the environment in which they find themselves, many of them have taken, leave from Africa to other places. It means then that governments must address this and put in place deliberate, constructive policies to bring this youth, this African youth, to come and work for and help us to develop our own pathway through the AI ecosystem. As it were, I think there is some convergence of thoughts here that although AI will not replace humans, it is the tool that we need to be able to function in the world of tomorrow. Many of us here will still find it, will still be very skeptical entering a self-driving vehicle. But we know that soon we are going to be trusting those vehicles to move us around the same way many of us now have come to trust Google Maps or any of the GPS navigation tools to move around town. And I think we have what it takes in Africa, but we need to put the right policies in place to help the youth to upscale and encourage them to do more. I think there must be some structure that will help this youth to develop our own Afrocentric AI using the open source that is already available out there. Thank you very much. And I hope we will continue this conversation and begin to look at how to deepen knowledge for the good of our authors and Africa as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Let's hear from Madame Shaba.
Yes. My last word is, as we celebrate Africa Freedom Day, let us remember that because we are not united as one nation, we are of no significance to the West. We are not consulted. They can start anything they want, and we are just recipients. And I think some of the things which we just swallow can be dangerous to us. We need also to mobilize ourselves and help our Western brothers and sisters to come down to earth, because this is not they are not the only habitants of this world. Even if they want to do anything, they can do on their own, and we have our own time zone. Africa is awakening to so many things today, and we are beginning to recognize ourselves, but we need to be united as one nation and not so many villages. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much for those concluding remarks. I think we have a few minutes to go, and I would just like to thank all of you who've stayed till the end. I would like to thank the panelists for their riveting discussion. I would like to thank Power for organizing this, and I want to trust this is just a beginning discussion. It is not the end. We will continue this conversation. If there is anything I want to say, is that we Africans, we shouldn't despair as far as AI is concerned. Some of the sons of Africa are at the forefront of artificial intelligence. And I say this with knowledge of the fact that some of the very first PhDs in artificial intelligence were mostly Africans. So it is incumbent on us to reach out to those sons and see how we could all benefit from their resourcefulness and their inventiveness as far as AI is concerned. At this point, I would leave the floor to our Secretary General to give us his conclusion and closing remarks, and then we'll be able to wrap up the day. Dr. Wale Okediran, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you, Prof. And thank you for a wonderful job. We have to get you out of bed very early. I think it's about, we started around 6 a.m. your time. Maybe we'll release you, you can go back for breakfast. Thank you for, thank you for all you have done. And I also want to assure, before I give my vote of thanks, I want to assure all those who have been wondering what will become of this discussion. We are going to make available recordings of this event on YouTube and other media. And if possible, we can also have a hard copy of the document so that we can use it to further the discussion. I want to thank the panelists who have been able to help us with this discussion. Apologies from Dr. From Cairo, from Egypt. Yes, she sent a text that she had some problems with her power supply, and that's why she couldn't join us. I want to thank my staff who have been working in the background, the project officers, the accountant, the secretary, and everybody else. And I also want to say that today is Africa Day, and after this event, we should, in our own corner, find something to celebrate the day, whether a keg of palm wine or some soft drinks or anything you can pick up. We should have done that if we were physically together, but we want us to mark the day in your own way. 60 years of African Union. We have made some progress despite our challenges. So on this note, I will thank you again and call my colleagues to please interpret what I've said. Reine, please give us the French version of the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Ok, comme le secrétaire général a bien signifié, il voudrait remercier tous les participants à cette réunion et il espère que cette réunion a été très enrichissante pour tout un chacun et aussi tenait vraiment à remercier le modérateur de cette session et il dit merci au personnel de PAWA et à tous les invités pour leur contribution et il dit merci à tous et que Dieu vous bénisse. Merci à tous.
Abbas?
السيدات والسادة الموقرون، متفقون معي جميعا على أننا قضينا وقتا ممتعا للغاية اليوم. بصرف النظر عن تهدئة مخاوفنا بشأن هذا التطور الجديد المسمى بالذكاء الاصطناعي، وإن الكثير منا في العالم الإبداعي يتمتعون الآن بتعليم أفضل حول كيفية القيام بأعمالنا. في هذه الملاحظة أود أن أشكر المنسق والمتحدثين ومسؤولي باوا وجميع ضيوفنا على مساهماتهم في إنجاح هذا الحدث. شكرا لكم وبارك الله بكم جميعا. شكرا مجددا ويوم أفريقيا سعيد. شكرا.
And Peter is here. Peter, you want to hear the Swahili?
Well, Doctor, thank you so much, everybody. Dr. Wale amesema kwamba kwanza anashukuru watu wote ambao wameshiriki leo, na ameomba radhi kwa mwenzetu mmoja kutoka Egypt ambaye hakuweza kufika, lakini ametuma ujumbe kutokana na swala zima la tatizo la umeme. Hata hivyo ameshukuru sana kwa watu waweza kushughulika katika jambo hili, kushiriki kwa pamoja. Lakini pia leo ni siku ya Afrika, amesema baada ya kutoka hapa ni vema basi tukasherehekea siku yetu kwa chochote kile, kama ikiwa nika kinywaji kidogo au kanyama choma, kaugali kidogo au kambege kidogo hivyo. Lakini ameshukuru sana kwa siku hii na anasema kwamba haya ambayo tumeongea yatapatikana katika YouTube channel, atajitahidi sana katika YouTube, na pia ikiwezekana tapata pia nakala ngumu, yani hard copy ya haya yote. Asanteni sana. Asante sana. Back to you, Dr. Wale.
Asante sana. Thank you. Well, at this point, we have to thank all of you for coming. We'll get the proceedings to you. Thank you especially to my big uncle. I think he has gone. That's retired General Williams. He's actually the brain behind all this. He has been pushing me for the last few months to make sure that this event takes place. Thank you, sir. We'll continue to consult you. And finally, to Professor William Indy, My big respects. I appreciate. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
God bless you all.
Okay.
Bye.